All right, so I'm here with a very different perspective. I'm a litigation attorney, and I'm here to tell you that the law, the tort law, does not provide any relief for anyone who has been repeatedly abused or the coaches have been negligent for creating a situation where athletes are being injured and suffering from CTE. The only recourse we have really is changing the law. And specifically, harm reduction is critical for children under 12 years old. The reason why it's so difficult for attorneys to actually take these cases is because CTE can only be diagnosed post-mortem, after death. And if you could go on to the next slide and actually follow up that slide. So the reason I'm here is I actually represented 4 former UCLA football players against the Regents of California and the coaching staff, as well as the trainers. And this is a Division I school. And the cases were highly publicized because no one takes these cases. And the reason is that the industry standard is that football is a violent sport. People have to sign waivers. Parents have to sign waivers stating that they release anyone from any liability, typically when they engage in this sport. And unfortunately, 2 of the players who we represented suffered from symptoms consistent with CTE. As a result, unfortunately, 2 of them tried to commit suicide during these cases. And it was very important for us to hire a number of experts and depose a number of colleagues of theirs, in addition to depositions over 4 years. And essentially, the findings were all the same, that the head-to-head combat is what resulted in the CTEs and into what has resulted in these children changing completely. The parents would beg us to take these cases because their children were simply not the same from before they started playing football to after. They had completely changed. And over the course of this litigation, so many families had reached out to us, so many players had reached out to us to tell us that concussion protocols were simply not followed. So especially for children, they don't even know what they're going through. The parents don't even know how to enforce the concussion protocols. The coaches don't necessarily know how to do this. We just heard earlier in panel 2 where there are laws that have concussion protocols, but how do you enforce them? How do you find any redress for these individuals? Their lives have changed forever. One of the student athletes I represented became extremely violent after going through hundreds and thousands of hits to his head. The family is of modest means. The mother begged me and said, "My son is not the same. He became violent. He became suicidal." And just recently, last week, I found out that he assaulted someone at a drive-through and actually could be in jail for 40 years unless we can show and prove that he has mental health issues due to the CTEs, to the concussions that he suffered. They settled. These cases settled, but the money that they received is nothing compared to the lifelong, devastating impact on the families, on these young individuals. One of them could not finish graduating from UCLA. And others who I did not represent had attempted suicide as well many times, and some of them were unfortunately successful. I asked the mom when I told her I was going to be speaking here today, and she responded to me. I sometimes want to shout out at some of these parents to not let their kids play football because their son had ADHD, which was exacerbated through the concussions and through the CTE symptoms. This individual can no longer socialize. He can no longer hold a job. And the impact on the families is devastating. Calling attorneys to help them to try to put their children into mental health facilities. If you could go to the next slide. Settlement of the cases has not cured the physical and mental health problems they face, and some players cannot even control these violent urges. The family members are devastated, trying to deal with the symptoms, these lifelong symptoms. Final slide. CTE irrevocably and tragically alters the life trajectory of those affected. No matter what damages are obtained through any litigation, California tort law is incapable of providing redress for the irreparable damage caused by CTE. Prevention through legislation is therefore the most proper way to address this serious problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think, I know this is an informational hearing, there's not any bills voted on today, but we do that throughout the rest of the year.
All right.
There may or may not be a policy decision one day on this, but do you think that absent legislation, that this issue potentially will be settled either way in legal actions with, youth tackle football or the insurance industry? Are there other, factors at play in this whole issue with safety and youth tackle football?
Unfortunately, no, because the industry standard is that it's a violent sport. And so to show that there is negligence, you have to show gross negligence. And you have to show that it's beyond the standards in the industry. So the only way for there to be a change is through the state legislation. So I am honored to be here because I saw firsthand litigating these cases, the uphill battle that my clients faced. Fortunately, I was able to get industry experts. We settled. But the amount of money it takes to pursue these cases with expert witnesses and so forth, and to show that something is below the standard of care, because the industry standard is everyone signed a waiver, you've released your claims, and how can it be negligence? It's a violent sport. You knew this coming in, that there would be head-to-head contact. So because of that, litigation is not going to do anything. Unfortunately, it'll get some money into the hands of the injured players who were abused, or the plays, the drills were like Oklahoma drills, or things were done beyond what's allowable under the NCAA regulations, or so forth. So this is why I think it's so important what you all are doing, and I think the only way to really protect these children is to take a bold step and a move such as Assembly Bill 734. And I think there are additional changes that need to be made. I think enforcement mechanisms are critical, because even if there is a litigation, we can't enforce that coaches going forward will actually follow concussion protocols. That is lacking, and it's not happening, even in Division I schools. And just like our colleague here said, the coaches, they want to win. So it's actually, they will put the players back in without following the full concussion protocols. And a lot of times the players want to play, and they get marginalized by others on the team if they don't quickly get back in the game. So we saw that happening repeatedly.
Thank you.